On this episode, we talk to our friends Jacob and Geng about the future of families in Thailand.
So if you're interested in hearing how Thailand's new marriage equality law will shape the future of Thailand, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand to live the red-green dream, because if the women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy. And that is a deep-cut Canadian joke right there.
It's so deep, I have no idea what it means.
I'll explain later.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 24 years ago, fell in love with celebrating 3 New Years every year. The Western, the Chinese, and the Thai. So I never left.
But you only get the Thai New Year and the Western New Year off, not the Chinese New Year. There's no holidays for that.
Officially, yeah. But,
officially.
Unofficially, the city kind of semi-shuts down.
Yeah, I guess. Actually, that's probably why traffic was really good this week. Not to mention the work-at-home suggestion for everyone. So,
New Year's in general is not some great, super important holiday. But basically, more holidays is better. I feel like a Roman citizen that the emperor's just throwing us a bone. Like, let's have a feast. Let's have another feast. Let's have another feast.
Games, gladiators, feasts.
That's right. That's Thailand.
Pure populism.
That's Thailand right there. All right. We want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get every episode a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about the same thing we chat about every January, the crappy air season, my experience working on the podcast of our friend Pylin from Hot Thai Kitchen, the fact that Time Out named Bangkok as the second best city to live in the world, and why Greg was unable to send small Thai flag sew-on patches to his friend in Canada. To learn how to become a patron and get all this good stuff, plus full access to over 700 bonus and regular back episodes, click the support button at the top of our website.
FYI for everyone out there, sending Thai flags out of Thailand, forbidden. Cannot do it.
Prohibited.
That's right. And don't forget, if you listen to us on Spotify, you can now hear all the bonus shows there as well. If you're a patron, simply link your Patreon account to your Spotify account, add our new feed titled Bangkok Podcast, Badass Patrons Only, to hear the regular and bonus shows in the same place.
For sure.
Okay, well, on this episode, we are taking a hopeful look at the future of Thailand in terms of what it means to be a family. Now, on this show, we sometimes talk about some of the surprisingly progressive moves being made in quote-unquote conservative Thailand. The most recent example of this trend, though, is that as of this past week, Thailand became only the third Asian country after Taiwan and Nepal to recognize same-sex marriage. Yay, Thailand. But this doesn't mean the fight for true equality is over. So this week, we sit down with my good friend Jacob, who is American, and his husband Geng, who is Thai, to not only talk about their now legal marriage, but also their son, who was carried by a surrogate who lives in South America. And if you thought the paperwork for your marriage was hard, just imagine what these guys had to go through. So to talk about this and all the ways in which these paradigms are changing and evolving, here is my wonderful interview with our good friends Jacob and Geng. All right, well, why I'm sitting down here with someone who I do not see enough. I've known for a long time, but I do not see enough. My buddy Jacob, and also just today for the first time met his husband Geng. Geng. Jacob and Geng, welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. Great to see you.
Thank you. Same here.
Yeah. Thank you. Great to see you here.
Jacob has a cold.
Not enough.
Really looking forward to listening to your Barry White-like voice.
That's right. That's right.
Well, great to meet you guys. And again, we were talking earlier about how, something about this city where you can be very close to someone or live across the street from someone and you never see them. It's been years since I've seen friends who are in the same neighborhood as me. It's crazy.
So true.
Yeah.
I live in like a 200-meter radius. And when people ask me to go 2 BTS stops down, I feel like I have to get a visa to go that far.
This is what I say when people always say, "Oh, I don't know if I could ever move in Bangkok or live in Singapore. It'd be too bad." I'm like, you don't go more than a kilometer away from the SkyTrain. You could live in Singapore just fine.
Considering the size of the city, it's like big mega city, but then you just kind of live in a
village.
bubble.
Yeah, you live in your a town within the city, a town in town. Ooh, yeah. Anyway, you guys are on the show to talk about something that is really, really interesting to me, and I think you guys are sort of on the cutting edge of progressiveness in Thailand. And on the bonus episode that we do, we have a bit called Weed Watch, where Ed and I discuss any updates or changes to the marijuana legalization laws. Sweet Mary Jane, because a lot of people, I think, see Thailand as the quote-unquote conservative Buddhist culture, and to see a country like that making these bizarrely progressive modern moves is a little bit disorienting. So we always say the Weed Watch is a barometer for Thailand's steadily
social
progressive. Yeah. But they've also made some very welcome and uncharacteristically, surprisingly progressive moves in other areas too. And we're recording this just recently after the marriage equality law came into effect. And you guys are married.
Yes.
But you also have adopted a child. So that's why I think this is a really interesting look into what Thailand is hopefully moving towards, is these equal opportunities for everyone, no matter who, what, or where.
Yeah.
So can we just get into that a little bit? Like, tell us a little bit about yourselves. You guys have been married, how long you've been married, and where you got married, and how that worked out.
Sure. Just to clarify, actually, our son, we didn't adopt. Okay. We'll talk about that when I think talk about our journey. But actually, he was born via surrogacy. But do you wanna share, or you want me to share the story? Yeah. Okay. This can all be post-edited.
Which one of you is the strong silent type, and which one of you is the gab master?
Sure. I can talk to a door. So, okay. Maybe I'll just give a little bit of my story, who I am, and how I came to be in Thailand. And then maybe, Geng, you want to share yours, and then we can... So, American... been in Thailand now for 14 years. Thailand is country number 7 for me. Okay. It is the only country that I arrived to that I was like, no, I don't know when, but this is not for me. This has an expiration date. Oh, really? And now it's the place that I've been the longest. And I am now married to a Thai, and we have a family here. So I've just learned to shut up, enjoy the ride, and it's really an amazing ride. And I've come to love this country. I think it's afforded a lot of opportunities, been able to really build a career here, build a company, and I think most importantly, build a family. So that's me in a nutshell. And then Geng and I met New Year's Eve 2021. Yes, okay. But maybe, do you want to share a little your story?
I'll start with that story. I want to hear that.
Okay, yes. Well, before that, maybe to introduce myself a little bit. I am Thai. I was born and was raised here. I spent maybe part of my life overseas in the States and then Canada during my education. Then I came back to Thailand working for the government until our paths crossed about a couple of years ago in 2021. Yeah, at the New Year's party. So we met in 2021, and the first one of the very first conversation that we had, like right after we started dating, is having a family.
Oh yeah.
Jacob sat me down at the table and he was like, okay, let's just, have a serious conversation about having a family. I was like, okay, well, here it comes. And we discussed, and then finally we decided to. I decided to go ahead and have a family with him. Yeah.
I totally understand, because I was the exact same way. I grew up, I almost got a vasectomy when I was like 22. I was like absolutely sure I was never going to have a family. And when I met my wife after several years, I was like, well, if I want this to continue, we're probably going to have the same talk that you had. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it was a accelerated conversation. Geng's right. Maybe it was like on date 2 or 3, and I thought, okay, I feel like this could have legs and could be serious, and I like this guy, and I was already in a process to be a single father at the time. So I needed to make that clarification, because, hey, I don't want this to go somewhere and then all of a sudden you're going to have a surprise like, oh, wait, you've been trying to have a child in parallel this whole time. So I started the process in a kind of a international fashion. Had consulted a lot with friends about surrogacy. In fact, a close friend of mine from 20 years ago, because again, Thailand's country number 7. So at one point I lived in Spain. A friend who I knew from Spain, he and his husband had a daughter here through surrogacy, and that was baby Carmen. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but that was a case that all went up to the Supreme Court in Thailand, and the surrogacy laws changed. And I saw how on pins and needles he and his husband were at that time. And so it just reminds you, this is a human process, and they were very fearful for what it meant for their family. So going into that, I did a lot of research and eventually started as a single person. Okay, I won't go into all those details, but just to say, COVID happened.
Okay.
And when COVID happened, everything stopped. So I put the dream away, and the dream stayed away. And then, as mentioned, New Year's Eve 2021, not looking for love, that's for sure.
Never strikes when you want it to.
I ran into this guy, and yeah, we eventually dated, and I did just let him know, hey, when COVID does come up and this is all said and done, I want you to know there's a process that's in play. And
the idea of having a family, to me it is not new. I back in my 20s or 30s, I have the idea of wanting to have my own family, like kids, but realizing I am a gay man, and I live in a country where gay marriage at that time is not legal, and we're gonna have to go through hoops and like hurdles to get to having a family, raising a kid. So that dream kind of like just dash away.
Right.
So then he met me, and I love hoops and hurdles.
You're nothing if not a breaker of barriers.
That's right.
It is. And adding to that, like this decision and this discussion happened before the knowledge of the equal marriage bill
it wasn't even being
in the parliament. So we didn't know about that. We had no idea that in the parliament they're working on passing the bill. So
and so for us, it was, regardless of all things, let's create a family, or are you on board? Do you support this? Yes, I support 100%. And eventually we got to the point, well, listen, if you support this 100%, we don't know what's going to happen with COVID. I don't know what's going to happen with that process that I started. Do you want to start again? And let's do this as a couple from square one.
So, Geng, you knew that this was going to happen, and then you decided to get married, and you were okay. You were on board.
Yes, I'm totally on board.
So we started again, and went from square one, and decided to ultimately go through a program in Colombia. Bogota was where our son was born.
Yeah, we did a lot of research on other surrogacy services like in couple different countries, like in the States, in Canada, like some other places. But finally, we looked at Colombia surrogacy program at this clinic, and from their track record, from their
Everything was
legality.
Transparent. It felt like, we interview surrogates, and the surrogates also interview us. They get the right to choose who they want to carry
Totally,
for.
as they should.
And it just felt like a much more, we felt comfortable, and we knew families who had gone through that process.
So let's focus first on the getting married part.
Yes.
So you guys had decided the family first.
We knew that we wanted to build a family, and then we had started our part of the process, which is to do our DNA samples, make sure we're all healthy. We did that part.
5% of work that men do.
Exactly. Yeah, and it probably was also about 5 minutes. And then we were just living life, and I think it felt like, okay, things could start to happen. I mean, it's a long process, right? This is a very intentional. Two men bringing a child into the world doesn't happen by accident or a one-night stand. This is a very intentional process that requires a lot of people involved. So when it felt like, okay, the train is really starting to move, I knew that I wanted to marry him. I proposed, and that was November 2022 that I proposed, or October 2022. And then we learned in December or January that we were actually pregnant with one of the surrogates. Was pregnant. Geez. And so then it was like we knew we were engaged, but we didn't know when we'd get married. And then we knew that we were pregnant by December, January, and we were passing the first trimester. And then it did put things in a little bit more of an accelerated gear that we must be married before at that time we were trying for 2 children at one time, because we are, I won't say the word, effing crazy. And we needed to legally be married before both children were born, because specifically for the child that would be born to Geng's DNA, being married would afford that child U.S. citizenship. Even though the child is born on Colombian soil, even though the DNA is the Thai father, the child is American by proxy, because we are the intended parents.
Oh my God.
Surrogacy is legal in the United States. We are the intended parents on the U.S. form of a birth certificate for a U.S. citizen born abroad. So we would need to be married. So
that was the plan for.
Yeah. So we put that in high gear.
Let me just say, so then when you decided that you needed to get married first, how did that work, and where was it done?
Oh, so yes. So we back then during COVID, we were kind of still in the middle of COVID. So the first, and I think foremost, the biggest problem is logistic, and trying to get to the U.S. right before we go to Colombia to pick up our baby is kind of problematic. So the timeline is kind of like, it doesn't give us a lot of room. So we did a little research on like getting married.
Research is talking to my mom, by the way.
Did a research online, also talking to Jacob's mom, and we found out from Jacob's mom that you can actually get married online. Just
in America, like quote unquote.
With American
registration.
Actually, government. With the U.S. government. I mean, so she asked, well, can't you get married online? Or I guess maybe that had become a trending topic during COVID, because people were wanted to get married. They couldn't get out of their houses, so people were doing it online. And it just so happens that, yes, you still can do that even now after COVID. It's a state-by-state offering. Just so happens that Utah, a state that I have never been to and don't have real plans to go to, offers marriage online.
Great Salt Lake.
Yeah, you can do it via Zoom call.
Wow.
You could like scan a QR code right after the ceremony to get your license, marriage license right away.
So
Almost
romantic.
too,
So
yeah,
romantic.
almost too easy.
As an aside, I'm also wondering if you can get divorced online.
Well, in fact, this is too easy to get married. Or what's the divorce? Divorce might be a whole nother.
Scan the wrong QR code. No.
Exactly.
But like we had a small wedding, ceremony kind of thing, just close friends and families, and mostly people sign in from all over the world. We have friends and families, like Jacob's families in the US, and my family's down south in south of Thailand. We have friends here in Bangkok, so people from everywhere.
So the baby's on the way. No matter what's happening, the baby's coming. So we need to get married. It just felt very stressful. I was also starting my company at the time, so you're trying to start a company. You need to. I had proposed to him before we even knew we were pregnant, so we knew we were going to get married. But now things are accelerated. We need to be married before the baby comes legally. The baby's coming in August. Across the world, we're going to have to fly to 12 time zones away. So my anxiety was not at its lowest at that time. So the ability for us to overcome the legal part of getting married in a quick way was very helpful. Just to say, we do plan on having a proper wedding. That was our. We need to get married legally. It's the registration you do, the civil registration. We did a nice little ceremony, but we would like to have the proper Thailand beach wedding.
That's actually quite common for a lot of my friends in Thailand where they've done it. I think Ed did it too. He did it like the paperwork wedding and then the show off wedding, right?
Yeah. And now that and it's just so serendipitous that now the law has changed. It's even more of a reason that, hey, now let's get married under Thai law.
So all of this happened before this Marriage Equality Act had passed in Thailand.
Yes.
If that law had existed, would you have gotten properly married, like legally married in Thailand? I assume that would have
think so.
Yeah.
I think it would have made sense. Here's the... If marriage equality had existed in Thailand, if the means to have a child for two people of the same sex through medical technology existed in Thailand, we would have never left Thailand.
Right.
We would have done everything here. And having a child, as you know, is a bit of a stressful thing in life. It's a lovely, amazing thing, but it's stressful as is.
Before my kid, I was skinny and had a full head of hair. Yeah.
You and me both. So, so to add on top of that, the added layer of we have to fly trans-Atlantic Pacific, across the world. We have to deal with immigration in Colombia, immigration at and in a very closed time frame. We're two working adults. We don't have the luxury to go and spend 6 months and do admin when we feel like it. We got to get this done within 1 month's time frame because we have to come back. At that time, we weren't legally married, so he has no paternity leave. He's having to take every other kind of leave to be able to make this happen. I mean, it just adds on a layer of complexity that was, again, hoops and hurdles.
So when you got married in Utah, then at that time, Thailand didn't legally recognize your marriage.
No, exactly. We physically got married in Thailand, but under the law, the laws of Utah.
Okay,
US,
so your son came into Thailand as your son before the Marriage Equality Act went into effect. What challenges did that present you? Because I know nothing about it, but I'm assuming that two fathers bringing in a non-Thai son would have just exploded brains. What was that like?
Oh my God. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is immigration issues, because here I have a husband who is a foreigner here in Thailand.
Already that's a problem.
Not really a problem because
the eyes of Thai law, you don't, at that time you didn't have a husband.
True, because first of all, we had a baby through surrogacy in the country, in foreign country, where here in Thailand, surrogacy is only legal if it's done by a married heterosexual who has proven to be unsuccessful to give birth, naturally.
Really?
You need a doctor's note basically to do surrogacy here in Thailand. And also, I was married to this guy, a foreigner, in a foreign country. And in Thailand, the law, it's still illegal. It's not illegal, but it's not recognized as a marriage.
Yeah.
So bringing in both Jacob and Eli into the equation, it's an immigration nightmare.
I think yes, in the sense of how we would like things to be recognized. In the sense of like practically coming into Thailand, no issue, because Eli was born of my DNA. At birth, he is a Colombian citizen because he was born in Colombia and under the laws of Colombia. And then he's American because he's of my DNA. So when we flew with him to Thailand, he enters as a U.S. citizen and he with the visa waiver program.
Right. Okay.
So there was no issue bringing him in, but he is only tied to me under the eyes of the Thai law. And in fact, under the eyes of the Thai law, we have no legal connection, nor do I, nor do Eli with Geng. Things are now changing because of the marriage equality.
Right.
That I will now have a connection to Geng. But Eli, there's still a question mark. Will he be able to have a legal connection to Geng?
And that's still unknown?
Still unknown. I mean, we know for sure that he can have a connection to me through adoption. So that's for sure. And I think this marriage equality will make this process easier. Adoption. Eli, as my adopted son, would be easier.
It's a really weird concept to think about. Like as a father myself, like thinking that I needed to adopt him in order to be recognized as his father is a strange idea because my name is just written on the birth certificate and there you go.
Right. And so in our case, for example, we are 5 people coming together to bring 2 children into the world. We have an egg donor, and we have one singular egg donor that's between both of us. Mm-hmm. We have 2 sperm donors, myself and Geng. We are the sperm equations. Mm-hmm. And then we had 2 separate surrogates. We had a surrogate that carried our son Eli, and we will have a surrogate that will carry our future child for Geng.
That's already in process.
We're matching right now with the second surrogate.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Now that Eli is a year and a half, we are looking. We want him to have a sibling, and so we're now being matched with the second surrogate. The child that was born currently of my DNA, when Eli was born, he has a Colombian birth certificate, and then he has what the U.S. has something called the certificate of a report of a birth abroad for a U.S. citizen. On that, it's basically the U.S. birth certificate for somebody born outside the States.
Okay.
On that certificate, the 2 parents are myself and Geng, parent 1 and parent number 2.
Interesting.
And Eli has both of our last names, Holder Kumpao. That is his last name on his passport. Under the U.S. law, Geng has the same rights and the same responsibilities as I do as a parent.
Okay.
Child number 2 that will be of Geng's DNA at birth will be Colombian, born under the law of Colombia, will be Thai because his father, the DNA is Thai,
right,
and will be American because we are married by proxy. So the difference is that the U.S. says 2 intended parents, regardless of the DNA, but 2 intended parents, the American nationality will be given by proxy to the child, even if it's not through the DNA. That's what we don't have with Thailand right now.
Right now, only through blood.
Yeah.
and it cannot be granted automatically.
And it's interesting. I don't know what this means, but we checked, like, what do you need to register a Thai birth abroad, right? So, for example, when the second child is born, and of all the requirements, you need the original birth certificate that shows the Thai parent's name on it. It says nowhere in there that you need to do a DNA test. So there are countries where you do surrogacy where on the original birth certificate, like, for example, what we understand, Argentina or the US, they will, I don't know about the US, but they put the intended parents' names on the original birth certificate. So in that case, a Thai person like Geng's name could be on the original birth certificate. He's not the DNA parent. You submit that to the Thai government according to what's written on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or Ministry of Exterior. That would then allow them to get Thai nationality. So the DNA thing is, yes, I think in practicality, but it's not by the regulation.
I like the phrase you use, the intended parent. Like
intended parent, yeah.
We did a show a few months back with our senior legal correspondent, Dave, to talk. He sort of broke down the legal ramifications of the marriage equality law and how it's got all these knock-on effects and stuff. So it's easy to think of it as like, great, two people can get married of the same sex. And that's all there is to it. But there's so many knock-on effects. What I'm really interested in is like, so now, speaking from the perspective of DNA, Eli is yours, Jacob, and future child will be yours, Geng.
Yes.
And you guys are married. So does that or will that, this is rhetorical, will that constitute a quote-unquote family under Thai law? Or will it just be like you and your son, and we live in the same apartment?
This is the big question. I think this is where, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is, that's the family, to the definition of family to us. That's clearly the family.
Right.
The two siblings, Eli and our future child, will have different right, I would say, will have different rights because Eli, our son, the first son, he is American, but currently he doesn't have any Thai citizenship. He doesn't have Thai citizenship. He doesn't have any right granted to any Thai citizens. And our second one from my DNA, he will have the full right as a Thai citizen, or she, as a Thai citizen, would be eligible for any government benefits, could be anything.
Yeah, but I think your question is right. Like, will Thai law recognize this as a family unit? And for me, for example, okay, you're absolutely right. Like, marriage equality, it's fantastic, right? Like, it allows people who, never dreamed that they would be able to protect just the love between themselves and another person. They can do that now. Now, what that then offers on the other side of that is people continue to dream. And some may dream of having family, and they will... they'll go after that by traditional means, medical technology, adoption, whatever. And so I think the laws have to recognize that there's a new modern family that is going to be constituted in many different ways. And then I think the most important thing that policymakers and that we all need to consider is how do we protect the children? As it stands today, if something happened to me, and I think about this every time I get on a motorbike, and yes, I should be wearing a helmet every time.
Same.
I always say, bye shasha, bye shasha.
It's just up the street.
Yeah, exactly. But if something happened, then what are the responsibilities and rights that Geng is afforded under Thai law for our son? Right now, that doesn't exist. Yeah.
I think I want to also add to that point. Now that the marriage equality becomes the law, and that grants me the right to make difficult decision like medical decision in case that something happened to Jacob and he needs like big surgery or something, and also that at least that part of the family aspect that is recognized by Thai law. But something else, like if we want to travel as a family, if you're not here in the picture anymore, right now I can't take Eli out of the country.
Yeah.
Like go outside, just me and him, and maybe like with other child.
Yeah.
We can't go without you.
That's already difficult for heterosexual couples too. And I've mentioned this on the show previously, but I flew to Canada a few years ago with my son, just me and him. And we got to immigration as we were checking out of Thailand, and the guy said, where's mommy? And I said, oh, she's not here. And you could almost see him go like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like, oh, now I got to deal with this. But I was ready because I read about it. So I brought the birth certificate. I had the signed thing.
Yes.
One of my friends even the guy called his wife and asked to talk, a FaceTime call with his daughter and the wife.
Wow.
So, but that's a good thing. That's a good problem.
Yeah, no, of course, and again, protecting the children.
Exactly.
But we've heard actually another gay couple, an American and a Thai. They have a daughter, blonde, blue-eyed daughter. She was adopted actually in the United States by both of them, and then they moved back to Thailand. And so again, afforded all the same legal rights and responsibilities under U.S. law. And when they came here, she grew up in Thai school. She speaks Thai perfectly. And so when they went to the airport, the Thai father was taking her to the airport to go to maybe Laos or a neighboring country. And so, yes, they look quite different. And then it's like, where's your daddy? And then, in perfect Thai, this little blonde, blue-eyed girl goes, oh, well, this is my Paul, so-and-so.
Paul
and Paul Nung. And then
Thai,
explain the entire thing. And I think for the officials, it's new. I don't think we can wrong anybody because this is new there and people are learning. So it's just being able to, I think the more that we share our story and others are willing to share their story, we're still going to be a minority and that's okay. But then we at least let people know, hey, this happens. And so let a Paul travel with his daughter to the neighboring country.
And not just the government. I think what you just asked is also the social acceptance or social at large see us as the family. I think that in the future Thai citizen, Thai people in general, or Thai society in general, I think they're very accepting. They're very like open-minded.
Do you think they currently see us as
I think so. Like our friends or people that we know, they're very supportive of what we're doing right now, or we bringing in the like new members of the family.
Right.
Everyone we talk to, they're very supportive of us.
So that's interesting because, a show a couple of years ago, we had my friend Benjamin on who talked to, and he's got a Thai partner, and he was talking about the reality of being in a same-sex relationship in Thailand. And we talked about the topic of, Thailand is often seen as a paradise for LGBTQ people, and it might not be so cut and dry. Now this new law is obviously evidence that we're making progress in that regard. But so do you think it will be easy might not be the right word, but will that be more easily accepted here as quote unquote normal in Thailand? Like, being gay couple, gay marriage, those are sort of increasingly more common and more accepted and not a big deal at all. Now the next frontier is this new family unit. Will that be easily accepted here, do you think?
I think eventually, yes. Eventually, this will be normalized.
That's the word I'm thinking of. Yeah, you're smarter than me.
This will be like seen as norm, not a norm, but maybe something normal. You see,
not a big deal.
Not a big deal, exactly. And I think that also very obvious in especially young generations. Like Gen Z, Gen Alpha. They did a lot of research on their whether they accept the concept of like LGBTQ or like modern family, and they saw these like good statistics among these generations. So they're very accepting of this new concept, new idea. As of the older generation, they may be looking or like just quietly curiosity, and they also and Thai society in general not a violent society, and sometimes if they don't agree with something, they're not gonna come out and like protest or
Thais
say something
are
bad.
Non-confrontational. What?
So I think it's and they're learning, giving them enough time and show them that this could be okay with like normal family. They will eventually, I think they will.
I think that yes, I think in fact it's probably, again, country number 7, I think it's the gayest country I've ever lived in. I mean, it's like, it is gay. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, it's a little much for me even at times. So
that's what I say. Like, come on, it's Bangkok. Everyone's a little bit gay.
Is it the language?
So I think it is super welcoming. I think, now I speak about this from a foreigner perspective, and so on surface level, super accepting. I think gender identity is super accepted here. It's just part of the culture, and I think it's actually one of the beautiful things about Thailand. What now is happening is almost like the law is catching up to where society's already been.
I think that's what law does. It has to.
Yes, at times, but I come from the United States. We have a very ugly part of our history around slavery, in which the country, thank God there were some, you can call them elitists, you can call them whatever, but they were smart enough to say, this law is happening. We don't care if you're on board, but you got to get on board with it. So I think in some cases, law sets the tone, and then society is going to have to catch up begrudgingly, and there's still problems in the U.S. Or in this case, it was here, it was evident, and now we're putting in law to make it a reality. So,
So as we're wrapping up, from your perspective as people in the LGBT community, what are you hearing on the ground from your friends and other people in the community? Like, is this new law and its associated extensions, like having families, is this a massive victory? Is it seen as like the next logical step? What are people talking about, and what's next?
Well, I would like to see this as it's a victory for everyone in the society. The fact that this law was passed means that everyone in Thai society already opening up to this idea of gender diversity, or like diversity, inclusion. This idea DEI.
Which is so crazy that this happened on the same week that in the States the law is going in the other direction.
It's a different podcast.
So I think that this is win-win for the society as a whole. I think everybody is happy to see the law was passed. It shows that it's not just given the right to LGBTQ society or community, but it shows that Thailand as a whole is open to a new idea, a new concept, being open-minded, and we never know what's going to happen in the future. We never know if this law going to be good for the future 10 years down the road, but they're open to new change.
Again, all of these are life choices. Not everybody wants to get married, not even all heterosexual people. Not everybody wants to have a family. But the fact that people can choose if they want to, and they could do it, in the country in which they live, or
That's it.
That's the point.
It's opt-in, and that's great.
Right,
And you don't have to do it if you don't want to do it.
Just because you're granting people the ability to do this takes nothing away from you. Right. It just allows others to participate in the protection of love.
Right. What do they say? Like, it's not cake. There's not a limited piece. Like, you can give, everyone can have a piece. Just because they have it doesn't mean you get less.
Yes. Let them eat cake.
Exactly. And let's finish on something you mentioned earlier. But I think it's good when all of us realize that it's a learning process, and we've all got to move forward together. Like, you can't see a form that says mom and dad and lose your shit. You'll be like, outrageous, it was dad and dad. So you have to understand that those things need to change too, and then I have to understand that,
of course,
there's new words, there's new phrases and terms, and things are changing and adapting and evolving. So we're all in this bucket together, and we've got to figure it out together. Right?
Yeah, and I also I think that's also one of the really great things about you, Greg, is like you're always very transparent. Like, I'm just a simple straight guy here trying to figure out the world.
Cletus, the slack-jawed yokel over here. You want me to call you they? All right.
I'll try.
I don't get it, but all right.
So I think I hope, thank you for the opportunity to share our story. I'm like, our story is really boring. Like we don't do anything special, frankly, but the opportunity to share that story and maybe let people in on something that they were afraid to ask, or had curiosity but I won't ask any of my friends about that. Well, we'll share our story. We'll share our story as much as we can to just let people know that on the other side there is a family. We are full of love, chaos, kid chaos, not chaos between us, kid chaos, messy diapers and all
crazy schedules,
crazy
drop-off
schedules,
pickups,
and coordination and logistics and all of that. So
it's a big, wonderful, wild journey.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys. That was really interesting, and it's cool to see things changing and evolving, and to these new realities we all find ourselves in. And it's so cool living in a country that's considered old-fashioned, that is making some of these really important progressive moves, and it's so fascinating to see, and really, really cool to be a part of. So thank you for coming on the show and discussing. And I believe your son is probably hungry upstairs. Let's go check him out, and we'll get him some food, and then we'll have some beer.
We'll all go marry somebody of the same gender and smoke some marijuana, because
I'll have to ask my wife, but I'm on board. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us.
No, it's a pleasure. Thank you again, and we'll have you back on when Eli turns 15 or something, and let's see how those teenage years are going.
Oh my God, Dad, you're not cool.
So lame.
Something new to learn.
Thanks, guys.
All right, cheers. Thanks.
Dude, their story is fascinating. But I just want to say that just being here this week and seeing stories online about these couples finally being able to totally legally get married, I mean, it was heart-wrenching. Really, I mean, some of these couples, okay, you realize there's going to be a lot of couples who are going to legalize it, but a lot of them are couples that have been together for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, way longer than most of the average heterosexual marriages last, right?
Yeah, before we get to Jacob and Geng, their story is amazing. But I just want to say, hats off to Thailand. Like you said, give credit where credit is due. Thailand is frustratingly conservative in some ways. But, when it comes to just sexuality in general, we've said many times, Thai people are just pretty chill and pretty reasonable.
You do your thing, I'll do my thing.
That's right. And which works well if you're a minority, someone who is attracted to the same sex. So, yeah, I mean, I just think this has been one of the best weeks I've had in Thailand, just watching these stories.
And you're not even gay.
That's right. Yeah. It's just heartwarming. I don't know what else to call it.
Everyone likes to see happy people, and now there's more happy people. So how can that not make you happy?
Correct.
Yeah, it was a really interesting story. And I had the thought, now this, I know this is, apples to oranges in an extreme way, but, being in a long-term relationship with a same-sex partner in Thailand, or in most countries where same-sex marriage is illegal, it kind of must be like what it is working in Thailand illegally. I remember back in my day, you never feel like you're home. You never feel like what you're doing is really allowed. You're feeling that at any time someone could come by and bust you, or, make life hard for you. And it's maybe sort of Damocles is the wrong phrase to use, but it's shitty to have something like that hanging over your head all the time. So this is it's a great step forward.
Yeah, I just know from teaching about the fight for marriage equality in the States. So just from educating myself about that, I learned that, just official legal recognition, it's worth more than you would think. You might think that, hey, I just want to be left alone. If you just leave me alone, I'll be fine. And that is an important step, just to be left alone. But the official recognition, it matters a lot, especially over the long term.
Right. And like I said in the interview, I mean, these guys they're on the cutting edge of the modern family, because now they have a son who was surrogated. Is that a word? Surrogate? I don't know.
You can say conceived.
Conceived, I guess so. Conceived and carried by a woman. Anyway, you know the story. You heard the interview. But this is funny. This is what this is happening now. All of these new words and relationships.
That's right.
And the status quo is changing, which is great. But yeah, it's just great. And hanging out with them. I was over at their place doing an interview, and we had coffee and playing around with their son. And he's a lovely little kid. And these guys are just a great family. They clearly love each other. They clearly love their son. And like I said, more happy people is a net positive for everyone. So congratulations to both of them. And thanks, guys, for coming on the show.
For sure. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, we ask our listeners to send in a voicemail using the little microphone button on our website if they have something to say. And this week we heard from our pal, Kevin. Take it away, Kevin.
Hi, guys. This is Kevin from Seattle. And I had a question for you about your thoughts as to if you did a poll of 1,000 Thais, a variety of, gender, demographic, age, occupation. You just took 1,000 Thais and asked them whether they love, loathe, or live with expats, and whether they love, loathe, or live with tourists. I'm curious what you think the consensus, if there is one, what that consensus might be. All right. Great show, guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey, that's a really interesting question. We've touched upon some of these issues before. I've talked about how Thailand is more tourist-friendly than expat-friendly. And I've also talked about the fact that sometimes as foreigners, because of the circles we hang out with, we might forget that there's a lot of Thai people who might not be that happy having foreigners in Thailand. Because we're hanging out in international circles. The Thai people we know might not be the average Thai person.
Right, yeah. And I've never experienced any overt racism or like, get out, go home. Unless you say something like, why don't you improve this? And then it's just, well, if you don't like it, go home, which is, that's not directly related to not liking foreigners. It's just not liking people complaining about stuff they can't change. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to answer because obviously we're not Thai, but it reminds me of that old phrase that people say sometimes, is that for the most part, foreigners in Thailand are tolerated, if not loved.
That's right. That's right. But it's a good question though. Maybe we'll try it. I don't know if we can survey 1,000 Thai people. Maybe we'll get a few comments, a few choice comments.
We could ask around what our Thai friends think. I don't think we have that many Thai listeners to the show, but it's an interesting thought experiment. It would be interesting to hear the results on that. Yeah.
For sure. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
A final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping in our never-ending quest for cool content. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Yeah, baby. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. Send us a voicemail through our website that we'll feature on the show. Hit me up on Blue Sky, BKK Greg. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take it easy. I'll see you back here next week.
For sure.